All right, here we go. All right, welcome, my friends. It's Paul Parvez back to see you again. Welcome, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm glad to be here
We're
again.
going to be talking today a little bit about, well, we might actually choose a lot of topics, but we're going to be talking about
Right.
authenticity, number one, and some of our thoughts about, what makes an authentic life and and what are some of the things that you might do that are inauthentic or that are keeping you from really being your authentic self. And
Right.
let me start out by saying, one of the things I've noticed uh, there was an Oscar Wilde quote where he was talking about, if you're young and you decide what you want to do, and then you'll end up doing that, and that's your punishment. But if you don't know what you want to, don't decide what you want to do, and you just let life go and flow as it flows, uh, may be a better way to go. That's kind of an interesting concept in terms of authenticity. I think because I think part of the thing that keeps us from being authentic is we don't just go with the flow of things. We plan things out so carefully, and everything's meticulously planned. And if something goes wrong, a lot of times it's a big trauma for people. When in fact, all the things that have ever gone wrong in your life are all the things you have ever learned anything from. So,
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts about that? I mean, you know,
I would say, yeah. So I would say, like, definitely, like the Oscar Wilde quote you mentioned. I mean, so first of all, yeah, 100%. I that hits with me is that planning. So I was when I was younger, I used to be like this. I used to be rather confused as to like what sort of approach should I consider when I'm like, let's say I have a goal or something, some objective or something that I need to do in life,
mm,
right? That is coming up. That's upcoming. I can see that. So I used to plan, like I used to plan on rather meticulously. I used to plan out every detail because, and I think from my spiritual experiences, I've now realized that I used to plan those things because I was afraid to experience a future that is not according to the way I'm visioning it,
right.
according to the way I'm envisioning it. So I was really afraid. I mean, I couldn't consciously feel that fear, but inside, unconsciously, that fear was present. That no, I have to plan it out. I have to plan everything out. Then everything will go according to my planning, and then I'm relaxed. I'm
Yeah.
relieved. But hey, that's not life. That's not the nature of
No,
reality. So yeah. Sorry.
no,
Go
it
ahead.
really isn't. And the funny thing is I think we've all done that. And then you look back
Yeah.
in your life and you say, did this go anywhere near like I had planned it? And everybody goes, no. So that's,
Yeah, yeah, there is this another quote I think that also resonates. Like there's a quote, God, no, man plans and God laughs. I mean, I think that also kind of resonates
right.
with that. I mean, it's like it's not things will not go exactly the way we plan. So I guess planning is necessary, but maybe we should not be too hung up on our planning, and our mind should be more flexible.
Hmm.
I think openness of our mind is more important. As openness as in, like we need to be ready for things to not go our way, the way we are envisioning it. I would say I think that is important. That kind of I think that kind of thing, that should be uh, that should be included in our like. We should see it that
Yeah,
way, I
that
guess.
should be
Yeah.
part of the plan. Is that the plan may fall apart completely. I think,
Yeah.
and it's funny you mention that fear, because that is part of it. We really feel this need to control things, so we plan them meticulously. But I like the idea of, I mean, you want to kind of have an idea what you want to do, but I like the idea of having it completely open ended. So it almost doesn't matter what happens in the midst of that. It's like It's like if you start a painting, you have this vision of what you want to do. Well, oftentimes when you're done, it's nothing like that because you sort of allowed the process to happen, and it wasn't just about you doing this. It was about a co-creation, a universal
Yeah.
co-creation,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
a lot of times the universe is going to know better than you are. I mean,
So
what you don't always know what you need. You don't always know why this path opens up for you. You use your intuition to try to figure out should I follow it or not, but you don't always know why. And I think, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, I think
sure.
every path is the right path. Now, I know that sounds weird, but you get two options here, and
I would say there is no such thing as a right path.
that's
I would
that's
say that.
even more succinct. Yes, there's no such thing as a right path. There are paths that put in front of you. Every one that you choose is going to benefit you in some way if you're in the mindset to be open.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And like I forgot where I saw it. Like watched a video of some person like who talks about spiritual topics. The topic of the video was biases, like how we have these biases in our psyche that we want to avoid some kind of experience when we are more attracted to some other kind of experiences. Some generally speaking, experiences which gives us pleasure. Base. Yeah, this animalistic pleasure. We are more drawn to those kind of
Yeah,
experiences. And we avoid experiences which we anticipate will cause us, trauma or
right.
suffering. But actually, so that's how we plan things. Like this biological machine that we are, we plan things that way, so which will give us more ultimate pleasure and avoid the pain and suffering as much as possible. But that is not how reality works. I mean, you got to have you got to try all kinds of flavor. Let's say if you take the example of food, I mean, maybe some food doesn't taste well, but we have to also try it. That is also an experience. Maybe it doesn't
Right.
taste good, but that's part of your experience, I
Yeah, I
would say.
think you're right. I think you have to be open to everything that comes in. Now you're going to have your preferences, but I think just trying to tailor make your life in such a way that it's only going to be, pleasurable experiences. I mean, that's sort of a recipe for failure because what's going to happen in the
Yeah,
universe? No, that's not the plan we're going to take here. You never learned anything from eating ice cream all day.
yeah. You gotta try different
You
stuff.
do.
Yeah,
And, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking, I think it's okay to grab, like, when you're busy doing something creative, something you really enjoy doing, you kind of lose
yeah,
yourself in that process, and that's very authentic living, where you're involved in it in such a way that it's really not about you. It's about the project you're working on, and really living in that, and they
absolutely.
in sports, like, they call that being in the zone and that kind of thing, where you're a part of that experience rather than separate from it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, and when like this example, since you brought this up, this is actually a very good example. I would like to like talk more about this. The way that this experience, whenever you're experiencing something in the live, like right now
Mm-hmm.
in this
Mm-hmm.
present moment, and you're not worried how it will end, when it will end. Those kind of questions are not there in your current psyche.
Right.
I think that is the moment when you're being 100%
Right.
authentic. You're living a very authentic, like you said, like when you're passionately doing something, let's say something
Mm-hmm.
creative, which you really love, which you enjoy, maybe you're painting, it could be anything that you enjoy, or in sports when the players are in
Mm-hmm.
the moment, let's say in the football field, or like in America they call it soccer. So yeah, like in in the football or soccer field, like the players are live, like it's not, I mean, they have to be live and they're in the moment, and they're going through that experiences in the live moment. So for example, right now this is what we are doing, this podcast, this is also being
Yeah.
streamed live
Yeah.
on YouTube. So this is also a great example of, I would say, of like yeah, authentic living, because we haven't, this is not a script that we are
No.
doing. This is live. I like, for I can tell, speak for myself, I don't even know where the next flow of
I,
thought will go. Maybe it'll go this way, that way, but I'm enjoying it. I'm fully here. I have jumped in the ocean, and now I don't know what I will
right, right.
encounter. Like, but I'm ready to take whatever comes. I mean, that's fun of the
It is.
adventure,
It is,
I would
and
say.
it's funny because when I've done lives like by myself, it's a little bit more pressure by yourself because you're filling all
Yeah,
this space, and you get a little bit more self
yeah, yeah,
conscious. But it's nice when you're doing with someone else because you're bouncing ideas off each other, and that brings you into the
yeah, yeah.
conversation rather than into yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, one point I was
Yeah.
going to make about this being in the zone and that was I think it's important to now this is not, I know, always easy for everybody, but I think it's important to enjoy everything that you do. Even if you have to do stuff that's, typically unpleasant or typically, but, enjoy it. Get involved in it anyway. So there are certain things like
Yeah.
laundry and, grocery shopping and things that we have to
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
that can't always,
But nobody likes to. We have
yeah,
to
we
do,
do it
but nobody
unconsciously so we don't have to deal with it.
yeah.
But in fact, if you enjoyed everything you did, like I have a lot of functions in my life. Like now, I have a couple different jobs. I do the videos. We do a lot of different things. But I'm trying to
Right.
tailor make it to, you know, working on projects and doing things that I really enjoy doing. And that way, I think it brings me more into the moment. I'm not so, well, I'm going to do this real fast so I can get to this. I like everything to
Uh-huh.
be as
Uh,
important as everything else.
Absolutely. And I used to do that. Like, I guess this is the stuff. I mean, with experience, you learn. I mean, as you grow, as you age, because you look back at your past, you realize that, oh, this is where I was going wrong. And yeah, like I used to also do things like something, maybe something, a chore activity. I don't like, particularly like to do it, and I used to like try to pace it up, like, get it over as fast as
Right.
possible. But the thing is that used to kind of somehow backfire. I mean, it used to drain out my energy even more.
Oh, really?
Whereas, as an alternative, yeah, I mean, as an alternative, if I would have tried to somehow find something interesting about it, and then I think it would have been. I mean, talking about my past here, I think it would have been way better. I would have enjoyed those activities, and I would have had the satisfaction, like more of a satisfaction that I did this thing, instead of feeling like, oh, I this is done, I got this over
Right.
somehow. Oh, now I can, like,
Yeah.
finally it's done. But then next, that kind of test will again come up
Right.
tomorrow. I mean, this is the way life works. Yeah. So I think, and I can say this from my experience, and I can't believe I'm saying this, because a few years ago I wouldn't have believed that this was possible to say. I think in anything in life, we can find something interesting about it. There is something interesting about literally anything, even with some kind of like, generally that is perceived. So generally, let's say some experience which is perceived, which have a negative
Mm-hmm.
connotation, or let's say it's kind of a sad experience or depressing. You can also find something, how should I say, interesting about it. Or if you I think their sense of humor plays a
Oh,
big
yeah.
role there. If we Yeah, if we master our sense of humor, and that's, by the way, a skill that can be mastered, because when I was younger I had a really bad sense of humor, but as I'm like going forward in my years, I'm developing a better sense of humor, and I'm trying to see the funny side in literally
Mm-hmm.
everything. I mean, tell me the worst possible thing about our collective consciousness,
Right.
human consciousness. I will try, I'll try to find something funny about it. And you know what? 99% of the times I am successful in finding it. I may not necessarily share that humor with others, but I keep it in myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
smile about it. It makes that negative experience, or like, it actually converts that negative experience into a
Yeah, I
positive one.
think it's
Yeah.
really important to find the humor in everything because if you don't, that means you're probably taking everything too seriously. And that's a
Yeah.
danger
Yeah.
too. I mean, because you start taking things seriously, you take yourself too seriously. And that's like, and now
Too
you're,
serious. Then that means you're attached to
Right.
something.
And now you're outside of your authentic living because it's not about just living your life. It's about me living my life or me experiencing this, or
Yep.
you're always trying to involve yourself into that individual self, into something. And that's where I think we get off base. I love the idea of
Yeah.
thinking of our lives instead of, we think of them as stories, like, oh, well, this was my story and this was another one of my stories. Rather than think of them
Yeah.
as a story, I kind of like to think of it in terms of, okay, well, this is like a ongoing movie that I have never seen before, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm cast in it, and there's a lot of other characters,
Yeah.
and it's going
Yeah.
to be really interesting as we go forward to see how me and these other characters are relating to what's going on, and it's like almost like if you enjoy the idea of a mystery, it's a much more sort of open way to live your life. I'm going to let this happen because this is in the movie. This is what
Yeah.
I didn't write the script, but and
Yeah.
it's improvisation. Your whole life is sort of
Yeah.
an improvisation.
It's an improv. Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's so funny because I was thinking of the same example when we were talking about that, like you were giving that example of a painter
Mm-hmm.
starting his
Mm-hmm.
painting, but then he is not sure that how it will go, and then he catches the flow, the painter, and the painting
Right.
flows. I mean, the universal forces get involved with the painting. I mean, it's not like that painter is painting himself. There are also other universal forces.
And
So yeah, so yeah,
I
so go
was
ahead.
going to
Yeah.
say about painting this was a funny situation. Like a friend of mine had some little kids, this was years ago, and his little
Okay.
kids like to paint. And he said,
All right.
"This is great because they're so creative and everything. But if you let them go and you don't stop them at a certain point, they will keep painting it until the whole thing is black." So he says, "You have to
Oh,
stop them at some point. That looks good. You take it from them, you hang it up, because otherwise they'll just keep going until there's." And I love that idea that it doesn't really matter how it ends up. It was the process.
yeah,
It
yeah,
looked like this, then it looked like this, then it looked like this, and now it's all black. But
yeah. So it's the whole thing is improv. The whole thing is like a live theater,
right,
like live drama
right,
theater. It's like that. I also look my life that way. Like I'm in the audience seat and watching my own life, and I'm sometimes it's weird. I'm also participating in the play, but I'm also in the audience
right,
seat. It
right.
works. It works. It works both ways, I guess. And it's a mystery, and that is the fun of it. That tomorrow, I don't know what new chapter in my life is gonna come
Tomorrow,
tomorrow.
you could be a
Uh,
leading man tomorrow, or you could have a walk on. A non
yeah,
speaking
and
part.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it could be anything. So that's the fun of it. That's the mystery. So the entire thing is like when we watch a mystery
Hmm.
movie, like which comes under the mystery genre, a movie. So would we like it if somebody already gave us a
No, no,
spoiler of how the ending
no.
happens? No, we won't. We want to watch it for ourselves to see how exactly these characters are, playing off each other, and then how the story is unfolding itself. I mean, that is our
Right,
life, a story that's
right.
unfolding itself. So let's,
Yeah, why would
yeah,
you want to rewrite the script so you know what's going to happen at the end? You wouldn't. You wouldn't.
yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, I mean, and this is real, is that we actually it's impossible to know
It
the
is.
ending because it's live right now. It's happening. The creation is happening right now in the present moment. So there is actually no ending right now. It will happen. Tomorrow will happen when tomorrow comes. Today, right now, this moment
Yeah.
is happening. It is being created live right now, right
Which
here. Yeah.
creates an interesting question. Is there an ending or a beginning? Or is it just a flow and you think of yourself as being dropped in the middle of it somewhere until you pull out of it? But in fact, uh, this life is one sort of viewpoint of existence, but there
Yeah.
are other
Totally.
viewpoints and other dimensions, and I wonder if it's just a flow from one to the next to the next to the next. And if you're trying to find an ending to this mystery, you're going to wait forever because, like you said, it's in the moment, it's ongoing, and right now
Yeah,
is your authentic self. Um,
yeah, yeah.
Eckhart
So
Tolle
I,
used to say that,
yeah, yeah,
he used to be frustrated when he was like standing in line at a bank, and now he sees it as an opportunity to just exist and just be and just observe and just, everything as mundane as standing in line becomes a new experience.
absolutely. Standing in a line in a queue, that is an experience in itself. I
Hmm.
mean, if one is if one is being observant, because I have yeah, if one is being observant, they will notice the different aspects of reality in that moment of when like this like for example I have observed this like okay, I'm standing in this queue, but there are so many people in front of me, so many people behind me, and I am observing this whole thing, this snake
Right.
of a line of people from my angle, from my point of view. But there are so many other people, and there are so many things happening. There's the person in front of me is maybe he's scratching his hand, or maybe he's doing something. He's fidgeting around with something. Maybe he's getting a maybe he or she is getting a call about something or something. Those audio is dropping in my ear, in my consciousness. Maybe a bird is flying above my head. There are so many things to observe even in a queue. And people, if one is being observant, then they can, and one is being live in the moment, then they can do that. But if somebody is being unconscious, then they're just missing the whole scene that is
Right,
happening
I
in front
agree.
of
I
them.
agree. As one thing I really like about the fact that there are certain people I know in this lifetime that decide that in order for them to really understand, who they really are, they feel the need to get away from people and get out, get into a single-minded, they may be monks or they may go somewhere up on a mountain or
Yeah,
somewhere. And I know that for some people that may
yeah,
be an important life to live. But for me, it seems like in order to fully integrate, what you are and understand the oneness of what you are and the fact that you belong to everything here and it belongs to you, it seems like uh, to live an authentic life, you have to experience and take in everything, including cues and lines where you are interacting with other people, and now you are just the person standing there while all this other activity is going on. I think this is all important stuff. I mean, I often thought an interesting book would be a guy who's living his life out in the world, and he decides to go to the Zen temple, and he joins the temple, and he decides to be a monk. Meanwhile, he befriends a monk that's already in there, who decides, he's done this for long enough. He wants to go out in the world, and so they exchange lives. So basically, one stays there and learns that. He goes out into the world and learns what this gentleman came in to do. I thought it'd be an interesting story, don't you think? So
I think that's a great story. Yeah,
I'm not a writer.
you should honestly you should start writing the first draft. What are you waiting
Because
for?
I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer.
No, nobody's a writer. I mean, if you want to be a writer, you can
I
be a
guess I could
writer.
be a writer. I can't even spell responsibility properly. I don't know if I can be a writer. I need a.
Hey, ask the universe. I mean, if the universe gives you a signal, go
That's
for
right.
it.
That's right. But anyway, the point is, I think, you know, uh, um, as a collective, we're living an entire life. As an individual, you're a piece of that life that you're living, and
Yeah,
I would just say we don't always know where we're going to end up. We don't always know what our path is. But I would say if you embrace whatever comes to you in this lifetime uh, with equal um, fervor, equal excitement, equal welcoming, then you will have reached, the fullest of your life. You will take everything in the fullest way, and then, of course, by doing that, you're imparting that fullness into the rest of the universe and the collective. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and that thing is so large. What you just right now, which you talked about, that's like such an ultimate thing that at this young age, I mean, I'll be honest. I'll try to be as honest as possible. I cannot really fathom the entire. like how it will exactly feel. Maybe it's like everything in life is an experiential thing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So once I experience it, I think I will truly know what that feels like. But right now, on a logical level, I can understand
Hmm.
obviously what you're talking about. But that's just so huge,
It's
man. I mean,
big.
when I think about it, yeah, it's giant. It's really huge.
Well,
It's magnanimous.
you
Yeah.
know, well, everything really, if you want to look at the reality of everything, it's all about zooming out, isn't it? For example, if you're
I,
looking at a piece of paper, if you look at it through a microscope, you wouldn't even recognize it as paper. But as you zoom
Absolutely.
out, now it's a business card, and as you zoom out, it's on a table, and now you zoom. I mean, everything's a. You want the
Yeah.
bigger picture, you got to keep zooming out, and
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
of course,
I
that's
agree.
hard, I think, for humans because when we zoom out, all of a sudden we become smaller. And, that's going to affect somebody's ego. The worst thing somebody can tell you is, oh, you're a tiny speck less than a piece of dust in the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We're like a tiny this kind of thing in front of the whole entire consciousness. We are like
you're
nothing.
not
Yeah.
even a grain of sand. Yeah, piece of
Yeah.
microscopic piece of a grain of sand. But
Yeah. So like you said, absolutely. That the problem is with the ego. I mean, that's how the ego keeps itself intact. Like, no, I don't want to see it.
right.
I am the everything. I am everything. This is how the
Well,
ego plays its game.
right, but the joke of it is that even as small as you zoomed out to see yourself, without you, which means it would be without everyone, there would be
Mm.
nothing. So, as tiny as you think that you are, even when you zoom out, you kind of recognize that you're a huge part of the whole because if you weren't there, nobody would be there. And if nobody's there,
Yeah.
there is nothing. There's just nothing. So, you're as big a part of anything as anything is. Um, there are trees that live much longer than us. You're as big a part as those trees are. There's galaxies in the universe. Well, like I said, nothing would exist if you, that little particle, didn't exist. So yeah, I don't think we always experience the feeling of how we are one in the universe. I don't think we always experience it or, take that in all the time. But at times, when you notice similarities and you notice, the functions of the universe and how you're fitting into it, it may just be brief moments and you sort of get the feeling of it. Um,
Totally. Yeah. And like when you talked about like that, like when you're zooming out, I mean, like the point that you picked up about like if you don't exist, nobody else
hmm.
does. I mean, I think that one's huge too, because like I look at it from this way too. Like when we are talking about zooming out, right? So we have to realize that yeah, like we realize that we are this tiny nothingness in front of the whole entire
Hmm.
consciousness. But we have to realize that we are the one who is zooming out, though. I mean, you are the one who is doing the zooming
Yeah,
out. So you are actually the entirety of it. I mean, we can see it that way, I
right,
guess.
right.
That then because I mean, who else is zooming out? You being entirely conscious when you're zooming out. So you're looking at the big picture, the entire picture maybe. But it's always you who are looking at the
What
picture. So you are
That
ultimately the
excellent
entirety.
question. So, what is the you that can zoom in and zoom out? What is the you that goes beyond your physical form? What is that you that is able to observe without comment, without question, without concern, without fear, without anything? It's just the sort of neutral you that can zoom out, zoom in, and can recognize that there is a whole and that you are it. You are that whole.
Yeah. So to my understanding, I think you are it. You are that entity, the entirety actually that is
Yeah.
doing the zooming out and kind of looking at yourself,
Right. And,
maybe.
and and then and that entity now is of course in our existence in bodies on a planet. Uh, is let's zoom back in a little bit now. Now we're living this existence in bodies on a planet and experiencing things. And as much as, I guess there's a temptation to want to live in some ethereal vibration somewhere, let's ground ourselves and say, well, wait a minute, that was maybe an experience, maybe I'm going into another dimension, but right now I'm a human being. I'm of the earth. I'm in the earth. I live here. I was born here. And let's face it, we're all just vibrations anyway, right? And I'm vibrating here,
Yeah.
and I'm here to experience the things that I do. And I guess part of it is, I just want to experience this lifetime since I have this lifetime, right? It's really funny on my screen. I don't know why this is happening, but your picture keeps getting smaller and then bigger and smaller and bigger. I'm not sure. I
What?
don't know.
Hey, maybe we were talking about the zoom in, zoom out thing,
Oh,
and
maybe wow,
the universe is playing joke on us.
I
Yeah,
was too strong with that zooming out thing, man. You're zooming.
it's happening right now.
That's so weird. I wonder if that's going to come out on the video. I don't know. I think it may just be OBS thing, but it's like I had us both sized, and then you get smaller and smaller, then you come back up. So I don't know.
Okay. Oh, well, let's still continue. I mean, is it happening like on a major, like, is it a major
I
issue right
don't
now?
know. I'm just looking at OBS. So no, it's not a major issue. I, you know,
Okay.
you're just
Yeah. Mm. So like we were talking about, like yeah, so that's how this I mean these are really interesting things to like ponder upon, and I guess with consciousness, with more and more
mhm.
consciousness, we understand these things. I mean these I mean when we hear these things for the first time, I mean it's like, I mean what are these two idiots talking about? That kind of thing comes out. But then when you become conscious, you realize that, oh, now I get it. Now, yeah, that is what these people were
Yeah,
talking about. They
what
know.
these two idiots are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is how I think it works. Yeah. Life is I mean strange, but it's interesting. Yeah.
There was the great thing about just conversations and not really, we didn't really have anywhere to go here. We just decided to, go in and see where it takes us. But there was an old movie. I don't know if you ever remember this old movie called My Dinner with Andre, and the whole movie is just two guys sitting at a table talking, and of course it goes off into stories and tangents and this and that. But that's very much, I think, a microcosm of life. You think you're talking about one thing, the next thing you know,
Wow.
you're talking about something else. So
Yeah. The universe is always forming itself different in different ways. I mean, it's live, happening all the
it's
time,
live.
different
I
ways.
know, always live.
Yeah. It's always live. It's not like we are doing a live stream. That's why it's live. We are always
It's
live.
always live. I'm getting all these
It's always live. Yeah.
I'm getting all these pop-ups. Let me get rid of this thing. It's distracting. Um,
Okay.
um, yeah, I know, and we don't always look at it that way, but I think it would behoove us to do so. Look at it like, okay, um, I woke up this morning and my eyes opened, and here's the first scene in the ever ongoing mystery that is a 18,000 part series, and I'm and here we'll
Yeah.
see what happens today. Um, and the
Yeah.
only control I think you need have or do have over it is your own attitude toward it. Um, you know, there was a time when I started working at a crisis center. I had been trained all summer, and I knew what to do, but when the phone rings, of course, your heart leaps, and that is, your first, so many calls, you're kind of like on the edge of your seat. It's like that thing where,
Yeah.
the duck's floating very calmly, but the little feet are paddling like crazy underneath, kind of that way.
Yeah.
But after a while, when you recognize that, oh, okay, I do know how to do this, and I do know what to do, and your focus goes back on to the person who called, and not so much on your own self. then
Yeah.
it was easy. I didn't care who called when. I mean, it was so much easier because it wasn't about me. And it's kind of like the same with your aspects of your life. If you allow these things to come in, they're not about you. They're not a personal affront to you. They're not nobody's doing this to make you happy. Nobody's doing it to make you sad. It's just what comes. So, what is your attitude toward your life? What is your attitude toward everything that comes in? Are you welcoming it? Are you resisting it? Are you fighting it? Or are you just taking the time to understand how this is, benefiting you and the universe?
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, like this whole movie corollary, or I more of a like watch see it as a like a TV show. It's like every day of my life is like an episode of a TV show that's going on.
Hmm.
And so if you see it that way, I mean anything that comes up, no matter how pleasing or unpleasing that is, it's just another scene in that movie
Hmm.
or in that TV show. Just another scene. I mean, it's just a scene happening. Just
Yeah.
watch it. Just observe, and you'll just that will become a part of your experience. I mean, just go through with
Yeah,
it.
and if
Yeah.
you want to have some control over the movie, I mean, I think the best thing you can do, you get up in the morning and say, okay, whatever happens today, I'm going to create space to make good choices for it. I'm going to add to the positive aspect of whatever this is, and not belabor or add to the negative aspect, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's like you're kind of the director of the movie too, so
Right.
you're you're in control too. It's not like, but the director also appreciates improv, so it's exactly like that. I mean, you know that you are the artist who is doing this creation, but you cannot be so egotistic that I have to control everything. Then that's the negative aspect of it.
Right.
I mean, you have to be open as to like maybe something is happening that that is out of your control. So you have to just like, you have to have this attitude like, all right, let's just see what happens. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then whatever you can control, you say, oh, so this one I know. Oh, all right. So this one I make the best of it. Then again, the next moment comes where you see, oh, this is new. Let's see what happens.
Right.
Then again, something usual comes up. Then oh, dealt with this before. So I think that's how I look at it at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you have dealt with situations before and then something comes up again, you know, there's a kind of comfort in knowing that, when you make a decision and then later you don't like the decision you made and you feel bad about it or whatever, you think, shit, I wouldn't do that again. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're right. You won't do it again because that was a learning opportunity for you. Um,
Absolutely.
wow,
Absolutely.
this happened and I reacted and I didn't create some space and I didn't consider it and I saw it as an attack on me, or whatever you did that you're not happy with later, you learned from that. And,
Absolutely.
and
And you wouldn't have learned otherwise,
you
though.
would.
I mean, this is the yeah.
And I mean, God bless the people that keep making those same mistakes over again. See, this is why I think it's important to be awake, because if you're not aware and awake, you may not recognize a lot of the unconscious things you do, and the unconscious is not the authentic life. The unconscious is,
Absolutely.
synapses firing and doing the same things over and over again. It's not a fun life. It's not exciting, and you're not really even happy to be there. It's just stuff that you have to do, and
That is the hell. That is the hell.
nothing in life. If you break it down, you don't have to do anything. We claim that we have to do. I have to go to work. Well, you made that choice to go to work because you want to make the money to do whatever you want to. Whatever it is. Everything is a choice. You
Yeah.
don't have to have a home. You don't have to. I mean, people make those choices all the time. Sometimes not by choice. Sometimes by choice. So it's important to recognize that you are in control of what you decide to do in this movie. What do you decide to do in the film? What are you going to,
Absolutely.
that day? And don't be afraid to make a mistake, because you learn from those, and then the next day is a better scene maybe.
The only thing that you need to be conscious of is unconsciousness, and how unconsciousness um, is the trap. How unconsciousness is the trap. You have to be conscious enough to see that unconsciousness is the damage. I mean, that is the, like you said, like the synapses firing in the brain. I mean, if you're unconscious, you're a slave to that whole biological process, and that is the jail that you've created for yourself. And to escape that, once you or right rather, the way to escape that jail is consciousness. Simple as that. The more conscious you get, you realize that there was never anything to be worried about in the first place. Everything just happening on in this flow, and you are part of the flow. You're in the flow. So
Yeah, and if
yeah,
you're living in the moment, I mean, you don't want to miss pieces of your life, but everybody has experienced this where you're driving somewhere and you're thinking about all these things and you get to where you're going and you don't even remember getting there. You don't remember the drive because you
yeah,
weren't there present in the drive. You were elsewhere. So you don't
you
want
were dead.
that's like an edited chunk out of your movie. You know, you don't even know what happened there. You couldn't describe a bank robbery if it was going on while you drove by. You know what I mean? Because you weren't
Yeah,
there.
you were snoozing. Yeah, you were snoozing during that whole scene. You were snoozing.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this is why I think it's important to be present in the moment and enjoy. Um, you know, a lot of people really notice that when they drive at sunset or at sunrise, they really notice the drive because it's so beautiful and they're taking it in and they're really enjoying, or they're on vacation, they get on the road for the first time, they get on the freeway, and it's like such a feeling of freedom, and they're really living in that moment. But you're going, I don't know, to the gas station, that trip, like, completely gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's important to be authentic with your experiences. I mean, be authentic with the way you are dealing with your life. As in, like, be true to yourself. I would say, like as end remarks, I would say, like, be true, be honest to yourself. I mean, maybe lie to the whole world. Let's say worst case scenario, lie to the whole world, but never lie to yourself.
Right.
Always be authentic to yourself, because if you're not being authentic to yourself, then that's horrible. That's a horrible way to go through this human life. And it's tough. Sometimes it will be challenging
Mm-hmm.
to be authentic to yourself, but that's the you gotta take it up, like a be a good sport and take it up as a challenge. I mean, don't chicken out from it.
Right,
Be
right.
authentic, and you will get the reward. You will get the reward if you're being authentic with yourself, with your heart. If you have a connection with your heart and you know it, you're being authentic. That is just an amazing way to live.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a really good place to end up. I want to mention, if you live that way, you have to take into account that, hey, these mistakes that I'm going to make today are okay. So we all get this opportunity, like a jumbled computer, at the end of the day, to go to sleep and reboot and process things, and then you get up the next day and you're fresh. Well, look at it that way and recognize that there's nothing that you do that you need hold yourself accountable for, in terms of feeling bad about yourself or not recognizing it. If you make a mistake, that's a growth opportunity. Now, if you make the same mistake over and over again, yeah, you've got to question that about yourself. You've got to be true to yourself and authentic. But the bottom line is, don't let things that you did wrong control what you're doing now, because I think one of the worst things people can get into is feeling bad and regret and all this other stuff. That's all backwards. You've rebooted last night. You're starting
Mm,
fresh.
absolutely. That's in the past, and that was part of the whole like process. You're in it. Why feel guilty about it? Once you become conscious, you will start to feel less and less guilty, and it's part of the game. I mean, you're playing the game, so be with
It's
it.
with it now. It's like living it now. It's really funny because whenever they talk about, the scientists talk about memory and stuff, we have a memory of things. But if you trace it back to, if somebody describes something that happened years ago and there was 10 other people there, you're going to get 10 total different descriptions, and none of them
Yeah.
will be that accurate. And
Accurate.
that's almost a blessing because it reminds you that it doesn't matter what I think about things in the past. I don't really have an accurate representation of it.
Representation, absolutely. Yeah.
So
That's like a memory in there. I
it's like
mean, that's not exactly what happened. Yeah.
right. It's not a hard drive. You can't access all the exact facts. And so
Yeah.
that being the case, that almost reminds us: don't live in the past, don't live in the future. Let's be authentic now. Let's live now, for now, and bring it on. You know.
Yeah. And let's not dwell in the past. Be present, be authentic. And the number one reason for this is that this human life, I don't know what's after this, but this human life is limited. It's not going to last
This
forever.
is
So
true.
enjoy it while it
Get it
lasts.
while you got
Enjoy it.
it.
Get it while you got it.
Yep.
Yeah. Enjoy it while it
And then
lasts.
the
Yeah.
next dimension will have its own, stuff to deal with.
Yeah. That's the next part of the movie.
Well,
That's going to happen. Coming
yeah,
soon.
the part twos are never that good, though. Hopefully it'll be better.
Yeah, let's
I hope,
let's
I hope,
let's hope that the sequel is better than the
I
current one.
hope Bruce Willis isn't in it. I mean, come on.
Like Bruce Willis, as in with which one? That movie
Die
series,
Hard
which
18 or
Die
whatever.
Hard, Die
Like, I don't know.
Hard 18. Yeah, sure.
Well, as usual, Parvez, this has been an awesome, good time. I appreciate you being here. Really fun talking to you. You guys,
Thanks so much.
I tried to put up comments. I don't know if anybody went on live and had any comments, but I think my little app didn't really work that well. But if you do have comments, suggestions, opinions, something you'd like to see talked about, yeah, put them in the comments below. And we both watch this stuff and we both respond.
Absolutely.
So meanwhile,
We're trying. Yeah, we're trying to build a discussion on it. So if you
yeah.
have any points to add, maybe you agree with something, maybe you disagree with something, doesn't matter. Just add into the discussion. So this will create sort of like a community, and we can collectively increase our knowledge pool
Yeah,
this way.
don't
Yeah.
let the dumb guys control the narrative here. All
Yeah.
right, thanks again. We're gonna close off. Thanks, Parvez.
Yeah. 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 Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for watching, everyone.